All right, welcome back, Hononegah, Honors, Algebra 2. Section 4.5 is all about solving polynomials. And the first thing we're going to talk about is what's called the zero product property. And you've done this before. Basically means if you have something in factored form equaling 0, then you can set each of the factors equal to 0 and solve. So that is the zero product property. Basically, and it can be now extended to if you have multiple, okay, higher degree polynomial expressions. So again, it still works even though you might have more factors. So here we go. I'm going to factor this completely just like you did previously. So I'm going to take out a GCF. And then I'm going to factor the parenthesis again. So factors of 16 that end up being 8 would be -4 and -4. And so anytime you're using the zero product property and you have factored completely, basically what that means is every time that you have a factor, you can set that equal to 0 and solve. Now, I am going to talk a little bit about the fact that I end up getting 2 4s in just a few minutes, but ultimately, once you have everything, again, in factored form, every one of the factors, including the binomial, 5x, is set equal to 0, and then you solve each one of those. So the next one, same thing. 4 terms, so I can do factor by grouping. Whoops, take a -5 out of the second 2. And then group. And again, once you have it in factored form, set the factors equal to 0. And the factors don't necessarily have to be linear, meaning x to the first power. It can also have factors that are x squared, because I have been taught previous chapter how to solve. So I take the square root of both sides. And x would equal plus and minus. Remember, anytime you take square root of both sides, you get a plus or a minus square root of 5. So there's 3 answers here. Now let's go back to talking a little bit about the fact that we had 2 of the same answers in the last question. If ever you get a situation in which something repeats, meaning you have more than one, if it's an even number, meaning it repeats twice, what's going to happen is on the graph, it actually just touches the x-axis. And so that means anytime it just touches the x-axis and doesn't go through the x-axis, it means it happens twice or even 4 times. So an even number of times. Okay? If it's an odd number of times, it'll actually cross the x-axis. So again, if I had like just x equals 2 and it was the only time that it actually was an answer, then it would cross at 2. So again, it all depends on how many times something occurs. If it touches, basically what you'll need to know is that it happens twice. And if it doesn't touch and goes through, it happens once. Okay, but technically speaking, it's an odd number of times and an even number of times. All right, so I'm going to do this graph. And I want to find the zeros. But let's first do it by factoring. This factors. And so you get x squared and x squared, minus 9 and minus 9, and it factors to be x minus 3, x plus 3, x minus 3, and x plus 3. So on the graph, and again, you can pull out a graphing calculator here, but on the graph, 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, I didn't solve all of these. So now set each of these equal to 0. You're going to get x equals 3, x equals -3, and then x equals 3 again, and x equals -3 again. Now, what does that mean? Well, I know then that it touches the x-axis at 3, and it touches the x-axis at -3, but it doesn't actually cross the x-axis because it's an even number of times that it occurs. So if I were to graph this, it would look like a big W, okay, where it touches the x-axis at -3 and touches the x-axis at +3. All right, next one. Now, what would happen if it's not factorable? I want to solve this, but it's not factorable. Now, we're going to teach you some more tricks down the road, but here is ultimately what you're going to do, and this is going to be important for today and for the rest of the chapter. pull out a graphing calculator. The graphing calculator is going to be huge in this particular chapter. And I want to type in that function. And I haven't typed it in already, but x cubed minus 8x squared. So x raised to the third minus 8x squared. And then plus 11x plus 20. Plus 11x plus 20. And I want to graph. The only thing I need is I need one solution, okay? I need to know one of the locations. I'm looking at the graph and it looks like -1, it looks like +4, and it looks like +5, and I'm pretty sure it really is, but I'm gonna go to the table and verify it. So look, -1, +4, and +5 are solutions. Well, I only need one of those. So I'm gonna go back and I want one of those answers. So let's go with -1. I'm gonna do synthetic division. And then I'm going, because I know if this is a solution, if that is truly a solution, the remainder, when I get done doing synthetic division, the remainder will be 0 because it is a solution. And then I write my answer down and I go from here. Well, that's factorable now. X minus 5 and X minus 4. And using the 0 product property, I would set these equal to 0. So the calculator is really there to help you get one answer. You have to solve this algebraically. You have to show your work. You can't just look at the calculator and say, well, the answer is -1, +4, and +5. And show nothing. You will get no credit for that. I'm trying to tell you that now so that you don't do that. When you are doing these, yes, the calculator is beneficial, but you still have to show your work in order to get credit. Let's try the next one. And again, we're going to type this into the graphing calculator. So 2x cubed plus x squared. So let's get back to the graphing calculator. 2x cubed. Whoops. Sorry, I didn't clear this out. 2x cubed plus x squared minus 15x minus 18. So plus x squared minus 15x minus 18. So now, all right, I got it correct. So I'm going to graph this. And remember, I'm looking for zeros. I'm looking for locations that it's crossing the x-axis. And I only really need one. Now, sometimes I can have two, but ultimately I only need one. So let's look at the XY chart, and I see 3. 3 is a solution. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to put 3, and then do synthetic division. And here's how I know, how I can verify that it actually is a solution. That when you do synthetic division, you get a remainder of 0. Now I'm down to a quadratic. I have learned a bunch of ways to do a quadratic, and one of which is factoring. So this one is factorable. 2x and x are factors of 2x squared. Positive 2 and positive 3. So I check it, positive 3x, check it, positive 4x, it is correct. So now, 0 product property says that I can, 0 product property says that I can set the factors equal to 0 and solve. And I'm going to go back to the graphing calculator in just a second. But I think the answer should be 3, -3 halves, and -2. So if I go back to the graphing calculator, those are the locations that I should see on the graph. Look, it's crossing at -2. I see that. It's crossing somewhere between -2 and -1, which is -3 halves, and then it is also crossing at +3. So I can verify algebraically that that actually worked. Last one. instead of actually getting the factors and finding the solutions, I'm going to give you the solutions and I want to know the question. So this is, again, the difference between a regular Algebra 2 and an honors Algebra 2 is that I'm going to give you the answers. So x equals -4, x equals -2, and x equals +5. Those are the 4 answers in this particular question. So now I'm going to add 4 to make it equal 0, add 2 to make it equal 0, and subtract 5 to make it equal 0. Next, I'm going to turn those, again, I'm doing the whole question in reverse. So normally, I have the parentheses, and I set them equal to 0, and I solve them. Now I have the solutions, and I want to know the question. So if x equals -4, then x plus 4 equals 0, and x plus 4 is a factor. Now, I want to FOIL this out. So I'm going to multiply the first two together. X squared plus 4x plus 2x makes plus 6x plus 8. So I went ahead and FOILed and added like terms. And now I'm going to multiply again. I'm going to show my work this time. X cubed plus 6x squared plus 8x, negative 5x squared, negative 30x minus 40. And I'm going to finish this off by adding like terms. So x cubed plus 1x squared minus 22x minus 40 equals 0. So if I had this question, x cubed plus x squared minus 22x equals 40, this would be the solutions. And so again, I am working everything in reverse. I have the solutions, I turn them into the factors, I then multiply the factors to actually get the question. So now, your homework assignment is out of the book. If you have any questions, please make sure you talk to your teacher, and good luck.